Second Down on ESPN is presented to you by the Uniform Source. Christian Gokel alongside Cam Urshry. Glad to have y'all hanging out here on this Tuesday afternoon. So much to dive into on the show today. Really a lot of college football talk. We'll have Braves baseball for you a little bit later, but we touched on this yesterday. Biggest underachievers in college football. BJ Bennett disagrees. We'll hear why from him coming up in a little while on 3 and Out, but Georgia, the number one on that list. We have a coaches poll out to dive into as well. No surprise who's number one in that poll. And then we'll dive into this Atlanta Falcons offense, because I think theoretically we could be looking at a team that has a chance to compete for a playoff spot. But what will that offense look like for the Atlanta Falcons? They've made some interesting signings over the past few days and some interesting moves, I think, over the past couple of weeks. So we'll dive into all of that. But as I mentioned, coaches poll has been released. The USA Today Amway coaches poll has been released, and coming in at number one, surprising absolutely no one, the Crimson Tide from Alabama.
Of course.
63 out of 65 first place votes from coaches surveyed around FBS college football has Alabama number one. Number two, interestingly, Clemson received no first place votes. Number three, Oklahoma received 2 first place votes. And if I have to imagine, Lincoln Riley was probably one of those number one votes. If I had to guess. Ohio State rounds out the top 4. And I think it's interesting, Cam, because it's one of the reasons why we've talked about wanting to see an expansion in the college football playoff is Alabama 1, Clemson 2, Oklahoma 3, Ohio State 4.
Yeah.
Does that sound familiar?
Very familiar.
Like literally last year familiar.
Yeah.
And so I think it would shock absolutely no one if that's what we saw at the end of the year. Ohio State is a heavy favorite to repeat as Big Ten champs. Oklahoma, Big 12. I mean, it's like hanging out with your ex, but they're probably going to win the conference again. Clemson, I think when you look around college football, and this is another thing we're going to dive into a little bit later, we've had some college football updated odds, so we'll do some over-unders and give you some updated odds coming up in a little bit. Clemson right now, to win $100 on Clemson winning the ACC championship. So you're a betting man, Cam. If you want to win $100 on Clemson winning the ACC championship, you'd have to put down $800 because they are that big of a favorite. They're minus $800 right now.
Dang.
That big a favorite. They are the biggest favorite to win their conference in college football, and they're in a Power 5 conference.
That says something about their conference, though.
I think it's something about the conference, but also something about them, which is they're really good.
Yeah, they're really good. Yeah. Model consistency.
Oh, yeah. So Clemson, heavy favorite to win their conference. Oklahoma, heavy favorite to win theirs. Ohio State. And then Alabama, they really should win the SEC West based on what they have on defense and then returning on offense. And then if you can get past probably Georgia, who comes in at number 5 in the conference championship game, we could literally see a repeat of the college football playoff from last year.
Yeah. We could, or you could see a repeat of what you had, 2018? Well, not necessarily a repeat, but Georgia played Bama in the SEC championship if both enter undefeated, and then they might see each other in the first round of college football playoff. 1 through 4, whoever's number 1, whoever's number 4, they might see each other SEC championship, and then again in college football playoff. It's the way it is. That's why I'm personally waiting on that expansion.
And again, you throw Notre Dame in there last year, but for the most part, Oklahoma's in there.
Yep.
Every other year. Ohio State's in there almost every year. Clemson's in there every year. And Alabama, there's been a couple of years that they haven't been in, but Alabama's there almost every year. Right? So that's one of the reasons why we're looking at this 12-team playoff. Again, Notre Dame will hop in there every few years. Basically, it's either Oklahoma or Notre Dame that's going to get in there, or Ohio State. Like, rotate those 3 and then have Alabama and Clemson in there, and you got your college football playoff.
Sadly, that's what it is. That's just the norm so far. Well, we've had the playoffs since 2014, 2015?
2014.
It's been like that forever.
Oh, yeah. 2014, you had Florida State, Alabama, Oregon, and Ohio State.
So every year since 2014, it's always included either Alabama or Clemson.
Yes.
That's ridiculous. But they're that good, but that's crazy, though.
So
every year.
Again, top 4 right now, Alabama, Clemson, Oklahoma, Ohio State. Georgia comes in at number 5. Texas A&M, number 6. Notre Dame comes in at number 7. Iowa State, number 8. North Carolina, number 9. And rounding out the top 10 is your first G5 school, Cincinnati, comes in at number 10. And I think this is something that I found fascinating from this one. It's because I've talked about this team. And I feel like they've been underrated in a lot of the polls because a lot of power rankings and early polls have this team down like 16, as low as 17. Florida comes in at number 11, and I think that's a fair spot to put Florida in because I think it says we know you have a good quarterback. We know you have some guys on defense, but we just haven't seen it put together on the field yet from these guys, and you're replacing a lot of talent, but you have so much talent on your team. Florida quietly has gone out and gotten a few transfers to add to their team as well, that some 5-star transfers that should be really good and really help out this football team in some positions of need. I think Florida's a top 10 football team. And I think by the time we get to Jacksonville in late October, it's going to be a top 10, if not top 5 or 7 matchup.
I give you top 10. I think people are looking at Florida and downplaying them because as good as a season as we thought they had last year, they lost 4 games. They did. They lost against Oklahoma, LSU, Alabama, and Texas A&M. They lost 2 more games than what Georgia lost last year, even though they beat Georgia. So now we're looking at them like, wow, we thought Florida had a great season last year. They lost 4 games. But coming into this year, it might be a little bit different, but they have a harder schedule than what they played last year. So we'll just have to see. But being a top 10 team, that's not a long shot.
I don't put it outside the realm of possibility that both of those teams come in with 1 loss when they head to Jacksonville because Georgia will have already played Clemson and Florida will have played Alabama in week 3 at home in their first SEC game. But still, if you lose to Clemson and then the other team loses to Alabama, there's still probably a top 10 matchup if those are their only losses coming into that game. And then if you're Florida, you're basically playing in that game for a chance to go back and play Alabama again, more likely than not, in the SEC championship, unless Texas A&M can do something stupid and go in there and upset Alabama, which to me, everybody's way higher on Texas A&M than I am. I know they have Anaya Smith and they have Isaiah Spiller, and they have a ton of guys coming back on defense. They should have a good defense. But, man, you're playing in the SEC West and you're going into that conference schedule with 4 new starters on the offensive line and a new quarterback in a Jimbo Fisher offense. That doesn't spell consistency to me.
Yeah, I agree with you. I'm not high on them because of the quarterback situation. The offensive line, I mean, that's big, but if you go the SEC, you have to have a quarterback to win.
I would prioritize it the other way. I think in the SEC, you have to have lines of scrimmage to win. Like, as much as we talk about how good the quarterbacks and wide receivers have been, look at some of the guys. I mean, Alabama last year, Alex Leatherwood, first-round pick. You have to have a really strong line. And I think the past 2 years, LSU and Alabama have won the award for best offensive line in the country. Yeah. So you have to have that line of scrimmage. And I just it's a question mark for me right now for Texas A&M versus you have Alabama, who has Evan Neal on it, who's a superhuman. And then they have probably 2 or 3 other guys who will be first or second round picks on the offensive line on their line. It's a distinct advantage to me for them. That's why I think they're the favorite. Because I think there are some really good skill guys in the SEC West. Hell, Matt Corral's probably the best quarterback in the SEC. He got my first place vote at SEC Media Days for the best quarterback in the SEC. So there are a ton of really good skill guys, but I think Alabama's just different on the line of scrimmage, and they have been for a while.
Yeah, they've been different for about 14 years, so it's nothing new. But, I mean, you're right. The line of scrimmage is huge. I'm just looking at, if you bring in a good O-line with a true freshman QB, a lot of freshman QBs can't go into a hostile environment.
Yeah, probably won't be a true freshman if I have to imagine when Texas A&M plays Alabama. Probably Haynes King is a sophomore. But I mean, he doesn't have a lot of experience. It's going to be a rough year for Texas A&M, in my opinion. I think they'll lose to Auburn, LSU, and Bama. You're just riding for your guy, Bo Nix.
Love my boy, Bo. But I do think it's going to be kind of a little rough year. I mean, they barely won some games last year. Remember, I think they beat Vanderbilt. I think it was 13-7 or 20-7. It was a close game against Vanderbilt. And now they're, I think
that was like 17-13 or something like that.
Yeah, it was a close game. Yeah, but I could see them losing to LSU, Auburn, and Bama losing about 3 games, and we know Ole Miss is going to put up a good fight.
You mentioned Auburn there. I thought just a quick note. Yesterday, Mike Bobo addressed the media for the first time this fall camp, and I thought he made some comments that are probably going to make Georgia fans shake their head because the biggest complaint, I mean, Bobo basically became a curse word for Georgia football fans, calling plays, which I think is funny because Georgia was scoring 40 points a game while Mike Bobo was the offensive coordinator, and I think a lot of Georgia fans would take that over what the offense has looked like over the past few years. But there have been some famous incidents in Georgia history where Mike Bobo was calling plays where all Georgia fans wanted him to do was turn around and hand the football to whichever stud running back he had. And there was a lot of play action passes or out of the shotguns and short yardage situations that drove some Georgia fans crazy. But yesterday, addressing the media, now Auburn offensive coordinator Mike Bobo said, describing his run game, he said, it's a physical attitude. It's not the running back. It's the offensive line. It's the tight ends and the wide receivers. You have to be able to run the ball to win championships, especially late in ball games. I would take you back to 2014, South Carolina, Georgia. I think Georgia was number 5 in the country. You had Hudson Mason slinging the rock around for the Dogs. You just come off beating Clemson. Next week, you go up to play South Carolina in your first SEC game. You have the ball right on the goal line. Number 3, Todd Gurley standing in the backfield, and you run a play action, get an intentional grounding call, and end up losing that football game.
You got some studs in that backfield. You got to tote the rock, but he may have learned his lesson now.
Well, I mean, it only took him 7 years. No, last year he had the SEC's leading rusher in Kevin Harris at South Carolina. I wonder how much of that was like the CJ or the Christian McCaffrey disease, where it's just you're the only guy on the team that we can give the ball to. And so obviously, you're going to have amazing yardage. And no, but Kevin Harris had great yards per carry. I think well over 6 yards a carry for Kevin Harris last year. But I think Tank Bigsby is in for a big season at Auburn. I don't know, Cam, though, to go back to your original point, I don't know if they're good enough to beat Texas A&M or Alabama this year. Like, I don't think they have the guys on the outside. I think teams, especially like Texas A&M and Alabama, are going to stack the box and make Bo Nix beat them. I don't know who he's going to throw the football to.
I don't think they're good enough to beat Alabama. I agree with that. Bo got his one win against Bama. Take your one win, leave, graduate with that. Okay. Now, a lot of people can't say they beat Alabama. But I think he could get a win against Texas A&M, just like, they're going to stack the box.
It seems like he's good for a good upset win. I mean, hell, in his freshman year, he beat Oregon in his first game. And he beat Alabama in the Iron Bowl.
Yeah, he's good. He's due. I think this year, with having a down year last year, I think he's due for 2 big wins. You could see probably LSU and Texas A&M or somebody out.
Probably.
East. Yeah,
I probably.
Wow. I could see that. Right. I could see that. I told you, you know this. I'm a Bo guy. I'm high on Bo Nix. When I saw him play for the first time against Oregon, I was like, he has that stuff. He had a down year last year, but he has that stuff, that makeup. I think he's due for a big season this year. I really do think that.
Again, coaches' polls have been released. Alabama number 1 on those lists. Clemson number 2, Oklahoma number 3, but with 2 first-place votes. Ohio State number 4, and Georgia rounding out the top 5 there. We got more to come here on 3 and Out. We'll dive into what this Falcons offense could look like as we get ready for their first preseason game. Also, come back a little bit later, and we'll do some college football odds as we get closer to the season. Some win totals have been released, and the odds to win the conference championship have been released. We'll give you some good ones that, hey, listen, are they underdogs? Yeah, but is that price point nice? Absolutely. So we'll give you some ones that maybe, if you got a little funny money, as our friend Rush Probst likes to say, you got a little funny money to spend. These are some good odds coming up here in the ACC and SEC. More to come here on Second Down. If you miss any portion of the show, check it out on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or ESPN at Coastal.com. We'll be right back after this. College football season is just around the corner. 25 days away now, Cam, from Georgia and Clemson. And we have some college football odds to dive into, some win totals. We'll do some over-unders on some of the interesting lines I see here. But I want to start in the SEC with some of these lines because I find it fascinating how tight it actually is at the top and some of the odds that you can get for Alabama and for Georgia. Right now, Georgia, who came in second at SEC Media Days in terms of finishing order in the SEC, to Alabama, they are going off at plus 250 to win the SEC. So you put down $100 for Georgia to win the SEC championship at the beginning of the year, and they win it. That's $250 in the bank, Camp. So bet 100 to make 250. I think that's a pretty good bet for a Georgia team that a lot of people are picking to win the SEC.
It's not a bad bet. If you lose, you just hey, I don't like losing money, but if you lose $100. Okay, but I mean, if you win, you get $150 profit. Can't argue that. So not too bad of a bet.
Alabama going off as the favorite at minus 140 to win, and I think a interesting one here, Cam. Their win total for the regular season is set at 11.5. So basically, if you bet in the over, you're picking them to go undefeated. If you take the under, you're picking them to lose to somebody during the regular season. If you were putting money down on that one, which way are you going?
Oh man, undefeated. I don't think Alabama's losing the game. Oh yeah,
back-to-back regular seasons undefeated.
Yeah, I think they're gonna run.
You're talking about getting into historic territory at that point.
True, but I think they're gonna run through this season like a butter knife until they get to the SEC championship.
Because they won 13 in a row last year. Mm-hmm. So if they win 12 in a row, that's 25-0.
I just don't. Tell me a team on the schedule right now that can beat them.
It's not the one you expect. That can beat them. I'd say Ole Miss, LSU.
Nah.
Can. You said can, not will. That can beat them. Ole Miss, LSU, I think are right there. Florida can beat them.
LSU is like what, 1-10, 1-11 in the past 12 years.
But they can.
Them? I mean, I don't see it happening. I think Bama's going to beat all of them, beat the brakes out of all of them.
Do you care to guess who has the longest shot of winning the SEC?
The longest shot?
Yep.
Okay, I'm not gonna look. It's in the it's in the West.
It is not.
Oh, it's
Vanderbilt going off 500 to 1.
Wow.
500 to 1 to win the SEC. You throwing down $1 on that one, Cam? Just to
I'll keep my dollar.
But what happens when they just come out slinging that rock around? Clark Lee's the greatest coach of all time. They got some slick new uniforms, look just like Army's.
Gas is getting high. Price is getting high. I need that extra dollar to kick in.
$1 was never worth more than when you were in middle school. You remember that?
Yeah, but
can I get $1 was the most common phrase I had ever heard.
Yeah, it was. Can I get $1 for some cookies or some Skittles? Yep. Yeah, the good old days.
Oh yeah,
cheap life.
Yeah, I mean, spending a lot of money there. All right. Another over-under I found fascinating is LSU.
Okay.
Right now, win total 8.5 for the LSU Tigers. And I wanted to go, I kind of went through their schedule, and I'm like, all right, you start the season off, and you should have 4 wins. UCLA, McNeese, Central Michigan, and Mississippi State. So I think you should have 4 wins. You get that revenge game against Mississippi State. You should have 4 wins. You need 5 more to get the over. Now you have Auburn, Kentucky, Florida, Ole Miss, Alabama, Arkansas, Louisiana Monroe, and Texas A&M.
That's tough.
Right.
Man, that's tough. They're not winning all those games.
I think a majority of those games are 50-50 games. So you don't need to win them all, but you need to win 5 of them.
Man.
Like, you're going to lose to Alabama, so go ahead and put that one out there.
Pencil that in.
Let's just go ahead and pencil that one in. But you feel like you can beat Auburn. You feel like you should beat Kentucky. You feel like you can beat Florida. You feel like you can beat Ole Miss, Arkansas, and A&M. Let's go ahead and throw Louisiana Monroe in there. So you have 5 wins.
That's a tough one.
You need 3.5 more. So you need 4 to hit the over. So you would have to beat Auburn, Kentucky, Florida, and Ole Miss, I think, or Arkansas. So rotate Arkansas. You have to win 4 out of 5 of those games.
Man, Kentucky's not a slouch. Ole Miss, definitely not. Auburn. Then I see Texas A&M. Arkansas is not. It's not a slouch on this schedule. I don't even think Mississippi. I mean, if you look at early polls, I mean, you'll see the little early play around polls on like Instagram and stuff. People had Mississippi State in like their top 10 because they're returning a lot.
I'm taking the over, and let me tell you why. I think they're better than Kentucky and Arkansas, so I'm going to put those as wins. You get Auburn and Florida in Tiger Stadium.
Okay.
And I think that's a big deal. I have LSU at 9 wins for this season. I think they go 9-3, lose to Alabama, lose to Texas A&M, and then throw in whichever other loss
Ole Miss
you want to put in there. I don't think it's got to be,
that's
but it's
on
just
the road.
Just put in one of those other ones, whether it's Florida, Auburn, Kentucky, Ole Miss, one of those. But I do think they go 9-3. So I'm taking the over on LSU's win total there. Another one I thought was interesting was Texas A&M's 9.5. A lot of people are picking them to compete with Alabama to win the SEC West, and they have Texas A&M at 9.5. To me, 10-2 seems like a pretty easy bet for Texas A&M.
Yeah, I'm looking at their schedule. Them first 4-5 games, they should go 5-0. Kent State, Colorado, New Mexico, Arkansas, Mississippi State. Arkansas might be a tough one. And then after that, week 6, they play Bama, and then after that, it's kind of smooth selling. You see Missouri, South Carolina. You see Auburn in there, and then
good old Prairie View A&M's in there.
Yeah. I can't disagree with you. I say 10-2. You lose that game against Bama, and then you have one more slip up, maybe against Auburn or Ole Miss or LSU, one of those 3. But I think they'll go 2-1 in that stretch.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting as we were talking about with that the way they have 4 brand new offensive linemen. You have a new quarterback coming in. I still think 9.5. I think that's one that's really intriguing to me for Texas A&M. But I do think the fact that you have a new quarterback coming in costs you a game that you shouldn't lose.
Yep.
And so I'm going to take the under on that one. I think 9-3 probably more realistic. And then you have that game where it's LSU, Texas A&M coming down to who's going to finish second in the SEC West to Alabama. Moving over to the East, Georgia's win total sits at 10.5. So what does that tell me? It tells me you lose to Clemson, and then what do you do with the rest of the schedule? That's what the odds makers are thinking, in my mind. And the one game that really comes into question for me is Florida.
Yep.
Because the rest of the schedule, the East is not great. The crossover games you have this year, Auburn should be better, but you get Arkansas again from the SEC West, and this time you get them in Athens. I think this one's a pretty easy over for me. If I'm Georgia, I think they're better than Florida this year. I think they're better by a lot. So if you do somehow beat Clemson, you have a chance to slip up and still hit the over.
I see what the slip up could be.
I'm
looking at 2 games. I'm going to go with the over because, I mean, I'm going to be a homer, and Georgia has to put together a team this year. They had to put together a national championship team.
Love that breakdown because they have to.
No, it's a must this year. They have to, but it's 2 games, Christian. Auburn on October 9th, that scares me. Going to Jordan-Hare, that's hard to win there. It's really hard. We saw that a couple of years back when we went to the national championship.
Let me correct you for the Auburn fans. It's not Jordan-Hare, it's Jordan-Hare.
Jordan-Hare.
Jordan-Hare. There we go.
Yeah, it's hard to win there, man. We've seen Alabama and Georgia lose there in the same year one time, a couple of years back. And then at Tennessee, I just feel like that's a trap game. Usually we play Tennessee during the middle or early part of the season. Now we're playing them usually kind of in like Auburn's slot, where Auburn's usually slotted most of the time during the year. That's a trap game. So those 2 games right there, I'm kind of worried about. Are they going to be focused at that time? Are they looking ahead to the SEC championship if they so happen to beat Clemson and they slip up 1 game? That's a possibility. These are college kids. So
yeah, it's pretty fascinating. Quickly moving over to the ACC here. We mentioned this before. Clemson in the ACC minus 800. So if you want to pick Clemson to win, you got to bet 800 to make 100. And I think there's going to be a lot of people doing that.
Yeah.
Because the biggest competition, according to Vegas right now, is North Carolina, who's going off at 9-1 to win the ACC. Miami's right behind them at 10-1, but I don't think anybody's close, and that minus 800 right there tells me no one thinks anybody's close. Like maybe Mac Brown and Manny Diaz are the 2 people in America that think their teams are close.
I think the only team that has a shot of beating Clemson this year in the ACC is North Carolina. I just think that's the only
But
team
you
that could
lost
go.
2 NFL wide receivers and 2 NFL running backs.
I didn't say
like
they'll
just
beat them.
because you have Sam Howell, man, he's got to have somebody to throw the football to.
That's the only team that
and
can
you got to
give
be
them.
able to stop them.
Yeah, that's the only team that could give them a shot, and it would be a shootout because you're not stopping Clemson. I don't think there's a team in the country that could just stop Clemson completely. But if you look at their schedule besides Georgia, oh man, this is what upsets me about the ACC. It's a cupcake schedule. I mean, it really is.
Yeah, it's Clemson's schedule's rough.
It's cupcake. Louisville, Florida State, those are the only two notables I look at. South Carolina at the end of the year, but I mean, Pitt, Syracuse, Boston College is the only one I may give you that could be upset alert a little bit, but they're at home. And they were down to Boston College last year. I don't think that's going to happen again. It's their homecoming. Man, I can see Clemson either going 11-1 or 12-0.
And I'll quickly here before we go to break, I'll put this one out here for my friend PJ Zuko. I think a good bet if you're out there looking. Win total for Penn State, 9 wins. I'm taking the over on that. And they're going off 8-1 to win the Big Ten. I think that one's really interesting because Ohio State is going to have a new quarterback. They have new guys all over the field. Do have Chris Olave back at wide receiver, but they're going to have new people all over the field for Ohio State. And Penn State's bringing back a pretty deep team. I think that's an interesting one there in the Big Ten. So much more to get here on Second Down. We'll come back. We'll talk some Falcons football. Also get you ready for Braves baseball coming up a little bit later as they take on the Cincinnati Reds. So much more to come right here on ESPN Radio.
Welcome back to Second Down. Yes, I know you're thinking, wait a minute, what happened to Christian? I am being true. That is Cam Ursher filling in for Christian. Christian had to step away for a quick second, and oh man, it's back, right, Cam? I mean, two things me and you have in common, Cam: shoe heads, sneaker heads, and them A-Town Down Falcons. Well, speaking of the A-Town Down Falcons, Kyle Pitts. I know that early signs coming out of campus. Well, he's a freak. He's uncoverable. He's as good as advertised. Getting on the same page with Matty Ice, but he's only one piece to that offense. Before we even get to the entire offense, your impressions of Kyle Pitts and how fast do you think the memory of Julio Jones can be in the back burner and everybody just talking about number 8?
Man, I love the addition of Kyle Pitts, but Julio, my guy. That's my guy. I don't think I'll never lose, memory of Jet Jones. That's my guy. I think outside of Deion, that's the greatest Falcon ever, in my opinion. I think Jet Jones is up there, but I'm excited about Kyle Pitts because of what he brings to the offense. He's not a tight end. He's a weapon. He's not a wide receiver. He's a weapon. I mean, they're going to utilize him like no other. He's like a basketball player out there playing football. He's going to go up there and get jump balls and all that. I'm excited. Really excited.
Now, I like the analogy of saying he's a basketball player, getting ready to go out there and play football. The last former two-way star basketball player that played tight end for them Falcons was Tony Gonzalez. Mm-hmm. Tony Gonzalez, for those of you who don't know, arguably, the most as far as catches and yards, I think he's second all time in catches and yards. In NFL history, not just for a tight end, first all time for a tight end. Played basketball at Cal, but the last great, to me, just from my opinion, Tony Gonzalez is the best tight end ever come through Atlanta. Algie Crumpler is right there at number 2. But Kyle Pitts even came out and said when he first got there in Flowery Branch, he thinks that Tony Gonzalez is the best tight end he's ever seen. But the impact, you keep on talking about Julio Jones compared to Kyle Pitts. Kyle Pitts' impact, because Ridley is going to be doubled up, right?
Yeah.
You got Gage and those guys. You got Hunter Hurst and those guys. How much of an impact do you think, or how much of a crowd do you see Kyle Pitts drawing? Not necessarily in the open field, but you start getting 20 yards in, and you trying to get in that red zone. How much of a crowd do you think Kyle Pitts is going to draw, and how much better is he going to make life for everybody else on the field?
I think he's going to do the same thing Julio did. Just draw a crowd. Ridley's going to be double coveraged a lot. I don't think there's a player in the league that's going to be able to guard Kyle Pitts one-on-one. Just like Gronk is a problem, Kyle Pitts will be a problem. Gage, like you said, he's solid. It's a solid core, but now it's a bunch of young dudes, and they're out there hungry and want to go get it. I don't think Ridley's played in a playoff game. Neither has Gage. Kyle Pitts, obviously a rookie, but I mean, it's exciting. It's exciting. I know that the draft pick had to brush on me for a second, but now I'm excited. We got a dude he's going to be a goon. He's going to be a goon.
That is Cam Ursher. I am being true, filling in for Christian Gokel. This is Second Down on the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. Just talking about them piece up, A-Town Down Falcons. Kyle Pitts, that unicorn, that weapon, that beast, whatever you want to call him. He got number 8 on his chest. He got Pitts on his back. He is Kyle Pitts, and we just breaking down all things Atlanta Falcons offense. Now, the thing about this, Cam, look, now obviously I can't go wrong. I mean, I was drafted by the Tennessee Titans. That's what Julio is. Mm-hmm. Kyle Pitts is winning them A-Town Downs. He played for them Florida Gators. Wore number 84. Wore first team All-American, first team All-SEC. John Mackey Award finalist, Blitnikoff finalist, Maxwell Award finalist. But now he's with them boys. What you think is gonna be his biggest growing pain? Because I know that old Cameron Jordan, defensive end for the New Orleans Saints, already said, "Look, man, he's a little light. He's a little light in the behind. When he's detached, I mean, he does what he does. But if he puts his hand on the ground, I'm gonna detach him from his body." How do you like the trash talk? Because obviously, got the longest wingspan in NFL history for a tight end, the highest drafted tight end in NFL history. I mean, got paid when he got his rookie deal. But what do you think Kyle Pitts is going to have to deal with week in and week out, not just in the NFC South, but, opposing offenders who's tired of hearing about this freakish athlete?
That target on his back, because presumably we're saying he's replacing Julio, like an all-time great. We're talking about a top 5 wide receiver ever. So that target on his back, it's going to be huge, man. That's what he's gonna have to go into this NFL season with. Just that target, like guys wanting to come hit him. Like when they played Georgia, they knocked them out the game. Granted, that was a head-to-head collision, but you could see that happen this year. As far as him being slim and skinny, I don't see a problem with that. I mean, he's a tight end, he's a unicorn, like you said. It's something we have never seen. So he has to just worry about the target on his back. But I think he'll adjust as, the play get physical. He'll just adjust. That's what great players do.
That is Cam Mercer. I am being true, filling in for Christian Gokel. This is Second Down on the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. Talking about Kyle Pitts, that unicorn, that weapon. I call him a problem. That the NFL going to have to answer. But the running game, the one thing that we don't talk about enough about this Atlanta offense, Matty Ice is going to be the straw, that stirs a drink. You add Kyle Pitts. You talk about Justin Gage. Really proved last year that he'd be a number 100. Listen, Hayden Hurst has already said, look, man, it's not going to be Kyle Pitts, and it's not going to be just Kyle Pitts. It's going to be me and Kyle Pitts. But the running game, the thing about this Atlanta offense, you know what they can do throwing the football. Mm-hmm. They were successful last year, and Julio was hurt the first time in his career. How much is the running game not only is going to complement this offense, but it's going to make life easier on Matty Ice? Because let's face it, we need Matty Ice standing on 2 feet, not laying on his back, looking up, staring up at the Mercedes-Benz ceiling.
Yeah, it's going to be huge. We haven't had a run game since, I want to say, Michael Turner. It's been a long time.
It's been a minute, Michael Turner,
When Michael Turner was playing, I think I was like in middle school, transitioned into high school. I graduated college. I'm 23 years old. So it's been a long time, but man, it's going to be huge because if you watch Arthur Smith in Tennessee with Derrick Henry, he did that play action with Derrick Henry, and it was a beautiful thing to watch. And that's what I want to see. I want us to get back to running the ball. Tough and physical teams, championship teams run the ball. I don't care what you're saying, what anybody says. Championship teams run the ball. They beat you up, and that's what I want to see the Falcons do.
Arthur Smith is a guy that comes over from Tennessee. I do think that the Falcons' first preseason game is against Tennessee. Brings over a former running back that he had with Tennessee to kind of get that running back room up to speed to what he does. Arthur Smith had, you look at what he had in Derrick Henry, a 2,000-yard rusher, a 6'3", 245, 250-pound beast coming downhill. Well, he doesn't have that anymore. I know he gets Michael Davis, a guy that's well-traveled throughout the National Football League. He gets Judge and those guys. But I think for me, it's about how you use the running game. No one's going to be afraid of Atlanta's running game, right? No one's going to be afraid of Mike Davis, even though he's a crafty veteran. What do you think Arthur Smith is going to have to do as far as like scheme-wise to make sure that, one, he's really out-scheming the defense with the running game? Because if it gets back to, 2 yards here, 1 yard in a cloud of dust, people are gonna be like, okay, we're gonna force y'all in the long distance third and long, and force Matty Ice once again to do what he's had to do, except for the 2 or 3 years he had Michael Turner. And he's gonna have to go ahead and will you guys to a win with a defense that's still trying to find its stride.
Well, he has to play to the strengths of Mike Davis. This is a big dude. Derrick Henry's a big dude, but Mike Davis is a big dude too. He's gonna be able to ground and pound that ball, but I think they utilized some of them backs wrong last year. Todd Gurley, you had Todd Gurley running inside dives. You do stretch plays for Todd Gurley's toss to get him outside, bounce it outside. And some of the less physical guys, you got them bouncing it inside and stuff like that. I think it was backwards. The play calling has to be better. He has to figure out, how can I get Matt Ryan a breather? Not a breather on the sideline when your defense on the field. How can I get him a breather where, okay, I just threw the ball 3 times. Can we run the ball 2-3 times to get a first down? Can we do that? Can we take pressure off the defense? Can we take pressure off the offense when it comes to passing the ball? That's what Arthur Smith is going to have his biggest problem. Hopefully he can figure that out, but the running game has to come back. That's the only way you're going to win anything.
That's Cam Mercer. I am being true, filling in for Christian Gokel. This is Second Down on the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. Excuse me. One thing about the run game that's never ever talked about, it speeds the game up.
Yep.
See, and it keeps the defense on the field. Guys ain't running in and out trying to sub, but the 12 personnel, 2 tight ends, 2 receivers, 1 back is probably going to be a formation or a personnel group that's going to be utilized a lot. The one thing about the 12 personnel it does, 1, is versatility. 2, you got your best athletes on the field. Because then you say, okay, do we bring in the slot cornerback and sacrifice that guy for the running game? Do we keep a base defense to try to make sure guys can go, the guys can protect against both the run and the pass? But then I call 12 personnel, pick your poison. One of the best route runners in the league, top 5 route runner in the league, is Calvin Ridley. If you haven't seen this boy, the Gage showed last year, man, I'm a solid number 2. I'm right there at 800 yards. Hayden Hurst don't mind, being that alpha dog, being at the wide position, knowing I'm gonna have to block, be an inline blocker, but I'm also gonna get out there in the passing game. Kyle Pitts, he's gonna be your move tight end. But the guy that make it all go is Matty Ice. The offensive line. I know we be trying to talk about it all. We talk about all the shiny things, right? That go Kyle Pitts and Hurst and Gage and Ridley and and Davis and Matty Ice. How much, once again, does the fate of the not just Atlanta Falcons offense, but Atlanta Falcons team rest on the shoulders of those 5 guys in front of Matty Ice?
Most important thing, Matty Ice came 2008, so
Yeah.
It's been about 13 years. I don't recall him ever having an elite O-line. I mean, he's had a decent O-line and for a couple of years at some point in time. I want to say the Super Bowl and then back in 2012 when we made that run to the NFC Championship. But for the most part, Matt Ryan has been getting beat up these last couple of years. Even though you've drafted O-linemen, they haven't panned out. He's been getting beat up. That has to be the key. Keeping Matt Ryan healthy because he's a durable guy, but he gets beat up. No quarterback wants to get beat up. But they have to be physical this year. It's going to play a big role this year, the O-line, because that's what's going to make things go. You playing with some young receivers now. Ridley's number one. It's a little bit different. Even though they ain't missed a beat last year when he was number one, now you're coming into a season where they got film on you. It's a little bit different. Kyle Pitts, a rookie. Russell Gage, you're number 2 now. It's a little bit different. So, that O-line has to come to play, man. I hope they can stay healthy.
That was Cam Ursa. I am Ben Troop filling in for Christian Gokel, who had to step away for a second. He'll be back the next segment. This is Second Down on the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. But listen, we about to take a pause for the calls, and when we come back, Christian gonna be here, man. I think Cam Ursa gonna have to break down the Christian, man. I know Christian be staring at the footwork. Check my footwork. There was a dunks or Jordans. A lot of people have said, I mean, what is the difference in the two? Cam looking at him like that's blasphemy. We don't know the difference between dunks and Jordans. I know the difference, but listen, we're gonna talk about it when we come back. I am Ben Troop. That is Cam Ursa filling in for Christian Gokel. We'll be right back on the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. What up, what up, what up? It's your boy, Ben Troop. That is Cam Ursery. We are filling in for Christian Gokel. This is Second Down on the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. Just trying to, have some fun today on this Tuesday afternoon. I hope I got the day right because I do get the days mixed up. But I'm going to tell you what I don't got mixed up. When it comes to these shoes I am, let me tell y'all something. If you're going to look at a man's feet, know what's on his feet. Right now I'm wearing some Jordan ones, low tops. Cam, my young protege Cam, the young phenom, that's Cam with a K, is wearing Dunks. There is a difference. There was somebody that said, wait a minute, Dunks and Jordans, they the same, right? I'm going to smack you in the face with baby powder. No, they are not the same. Cam, first, break down what a sneakerhead is first, and two, talk about how you're not a sneakerhead just because you buy shoes all the time.
I'm gonna make this quick. Sneakerheads just having the knowledge of sneakers, man. Just because you buy shoes don't make you a sneakerhead. You got to have the knowledge, know the background of sneakers and what they're made for. It's a huge difference between Dunks and Jordan 1 highs, lows, mid. It's a huge difference. Some people get it twisted. I don't. Dunks are skateboard shoes, man. That's what they are. They're skateboard shoes. They've come into style, but originally Dunks were to skateboard in. But Jordan 1s, we know who did that. Mike, his airness, he came out with the Jordan 1s, man. So y'all got to know the difference with that.
Now you are obviously a basketball fan, and you saying these are obviously skateboard shoes because you know what it is. This is what I don't like. Once again, I came late to the shoe game, grew up a big time shoe fan, but wasn't able to afford those things. But now that I'm on it, I make sure it's something to say when you walk up and say. It's when you say, "Hey man, them ain't the Kobe's." Them the Kobe Black History Months. It's when you know what it is. Them are the CB4s. Godzilla from for those of you who don't know when it comes to the Charles Barkley. Those are the Ken Griffey Juniors, right? You got to know. Listen. There's a difference in Air Max 99s and Air Max 98s. You got to know what you're talking about. But, man, at the end of the day, if you're going to be a sneakerhead and you're going to be staring at another man's feet, make sure you let that man know you being respectful. Listen, if you're staring at him because he got dirty shoes, say, hey, man, listen, we still got soap. We still got we still got the soap in the freaking toothbrush to keep your shoes white. And I'm talking about the white part of your shoes. But at the end of the day, go out there and do what you do. Have fun. Football season is back among us. This is Second Down. I am Ben Troop. That is Cam Ursery filling in for Christian Gokel. 3 and Out is coming up next, man. Make sure you tune in. Myself, BJ Bennett, Kevin Thomas. 3 and Out will be up next. This was Second Down. I am Ben Troop, Cam Ursery, and we up out of here.